Let's dive into one of the most significant diplomatic reversals of the year. How the Maldives, under its new President Mohamed Muizzu, went from pushing India out to coming back to New Delhi with open arms. What triggered this reversal from the Maldives? Why has Muizzu changed his tone? And what is the lesson here for India's neighbours? This is Shubhangi Sharma on CNN News 18 Finepoint. Let's begin. In just a few months, the Maldives has gone from spearheading an India Out campaign to rolling out the red carpet for India. Just months after rising to power, on the back of an India Out agenda, Maldivian President Mohamed Muizzu found himself in New Delhi requesting for financial support. India stepped in with a generous bailout package, currency swap loans of $400 million and an additional loan of 30 billion rupees, that is 3,000 crore rupees. As the island nation's economy teetered on the edge of collapse, reality set in. Antagonizing India, the region's most powerful neighbor, was never a viable long-term strategy. This U-turn is not just a Maldivian story, it holds valuable lessons for Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, where certain politicians have flirted with the idea of leaning away from India and towards China. In January 2024, tensions between India and the newly elected Maldivian government reached their peak. Muizzu, who built his campaign around removing Indian influence in his country, including pushing for the exit of a handful of Indian military personnel who were present there to operate two Dornier aircraft gifted to the Maldives for humanitarian purposes. The military personnel were later replaced with personnel in civilian clothes. At one point, his ministers even insulted Prime Minister Modi on social media, calling him a clown and a puppet of Israel. Of course, those ministers were disciplined, but this incident triggered outrage in India. The result? A sharp decline in Indian tourism, which dropped by 42% in just 4 months. In the last 1 year, the number of Indian tourists visiting the Maldives dropped by 50,000, resulting in a loss of $150 million. For a country that relies heavily on tourism, particularly from India, its number one source, this was a serious blow. But Muizzu's offences kept piling up. He chose to make his first foreign travel to Turkey and then to China, ignoring India. He even signed a $37 million drone deal with Turkey to patrol its waters, something that the Maldives used to do with India. He cozied up with China to such an extent that after returning from there, he called India a bully. But India remained patient through the entire saga. Perhaps it had an idea about Muizzu's delusions and the reality that he would be forced to come to terms with in time. Being the largest neighbor in the vicinity, India is the only reliable partner the Maldives has to lean back on whenever there is trouble. And trouble there is. You see, the Maldives is in the middle of a major foreign exchange crisis. In September, its forex reserve stood at about only $440 million, which is enough for 1.5 months of imports only. It has been successively downgraded by credit rating agencies like Fitch Ratings and Moody's, which forecasted risks of default. Needless to say, the island nation is in dire straits, which explains Muizzu's switch up to New Delhi. It also shows that China has not been as forthcoming as he would have wished. So much for cozying up with Xi Jinping at the cost of India. Clearly, reality set in for Muizzu because antagonizing India simply wasn't sustainable. And India dealt with the matter with grace and, dare I say, forgiveness. He was flown into New Delhi in an Indian Air Force aircraft for a 5-day state visit. He held a meeting with Prime Minister Modi and it was announced that India would be extending a currency swap loan, as I said, of $400 million and another one of 3,000 crore rupees. Essentially, under this currency swap agreement, India would be extending help in terms of dollars and the Maldives will be returning the amount at a later date and at a fixed rate in Indian rupees. Such deals usually ensure very low interest rates, if any, and this is not the first time. India has consistently lent cash to the Maldives to keep its finances in order. Earlier, the State Bank of India rolled over $100 million of treasury bills of the Maldives. These are critical lifelines for Muizzu, who only months ago was alienating India. He's also requested Indian investments in infrastructure and tourism to help revitalize his country's finances. Aside from the financial rescue, relations have also improved in other areas of cooperation. The RuPay card was launched to the Maldives and UPI will be next. Discussions regarding the free trade agreement have also opened up. The two leaders also jointly inaugurated a new runway built at the Hanimadu airport in an airport redevelopment effort in the Maldives that India is financing. Further, the two countries have agreed to deepen their comprehensive economic and maritime security partnership. In fact, Muizzu has also agreed to the deployment of Indian defense platforms and assets in the Maldives, which is a significant shift from his earlier stand. Muizzu's change of heart isn't just about momentary financial survival. He's now called India the Maldives' closest ally and has even invited Prime Minister Modi for a state visit next year to mark 60 years of diplomatic relations. And his government is once again courting Indian tourists, running a Welcome India campaign to regain the business that was lost during the political fallout earlier this year. All in all, it appears that India-Maldives relations that had hit rock bottom are back on track within months. This brings us to a larger point. What does this episode mean for India's other neighbours? Certain political leaders in countries like Nepal, Bangladesh and Sri Lanka often find themselves caught between India and China, attempting to play both sides for maximum gain. But what Muizzu's case illustrates is that China will never step up to help unless it sees a self-serving opportunity. India has historically been the Maldives' lifeline, offering not just financial aid but also medical tourism, educational opportunities and even military assistance when needed. In the face of such commitment, China's promises ring empty. So the KP Sharma Oli government in Nepal and Muhammad Yunus's caretaker government in Bangladesh will be watching this saga closely, and so will the newly elected government in Sri Lanka. The signal from India is that it is never too late to make amends and that it remains committed to its neighbourhood first policy.